scortaggini per Nedved, Pirlo, la conclusione in rete, Andrea Pirlo, un gol pazzesco! Del Piero, Alex, Del Piero! Pogba, rete, un incredibile, Pogba fa esplodere lo Juventus Stadium.
Oof. Ciao, tifosi bianconeri. Hello and welcome to episode 348 of the Turin Giants podcast. I am Kevin, your host for this episode. Following this weekend's abomination against Inter, which is still fresh in all of our minds, the pain is still there. There was an expectation, at a minimum, that this team would show up tonight with pride, with fight, with something to prove. And instead, we just witnessed what I feel to be one of the most embarrassing performances that I've seen from a Juventus side in recent years. Maybe this sounds dramatic because it is still very fresh. The final whistle only blew about 10 minutes ago at the time of recording this, maybe even less. But when you think about other embarrassing results, the 5-1 away at Napoli, 4-0 against Atalanta, 4-0 away at Chelsea, this result belongs in that same category, maybe even topping them. The shirt looked heavy on our players tonight. We could not deal with the press. I don't know if what happened this weekend was weighing upon the team, whether the stadium was too intimidating to them. Spalletti is not without blame in this match, and we will talk about that. But we are coming to you live on YouTube, and we thank those of you who are taking more time out of your day to dedicate to Juventus and the community. And we're grateful to have you spending time with us. If you are listening on audio format on Spotify or Apple, thank you. We appreciate a 5-star rating. And again, for those of you joining live on YouTube or watching the replay, like and subscribe means the world to us at Turin Giants Official. I am joined by my three, if you're watching on video, you can see the look on everyone's faces, three dismal, butchered friends of Turin Giants, Frederic, Jack, and Zach. Guys, I'd ask how you're doing, but I already know the answer to that.
When we got knocked out of the Champions League last year, a lot of people were saying, a team of Juventus stature shouldn't be coming out this, that, or the other. And I posited the idea that actually Juventus deserves to go out like they have this last several Champions League instances until they prove otherwise. And we have yet another year, it seems, where we are failing to prove otherwise with our performance on football's biggest or second biggest stage.
This team, this club is just not good enough. And I think that's the baseline. We're just not good enough. If you look at the quality that we displayed on the field today, makes my eyes bleed. If you look at the amounts we spent to bring in certain players, a Panda, a Cabal, Di Gregorio. What did you expect?
Who showed up today?
Nobody.
Any players who showed up?
Nobody. I think Kalulu was the least worrisome to me.
Yeah.
Kelly I mean, I know that he got pocket on that last one, but that was more on Thuram, I'd say. I think generally Kelly was pretty decent today. Bremer was pretty decent for the time he was in. I mean, but if you're only talking about defenders, that also is indicative of what kind of game it was.
Yeah, McKenney had a few moments as well. I'd put him in there. But.
And you can't ignore. Let's not look absolute drubbing, embarrassing, but 2 goals from Coop. Let's not forget. Like at a time, halftime, we're up 2-1, due solely to sort of clinical play from Koopmeiners and interchanges with McKenney and so on. So I think I didn't want to get that lost. We were looking for him to step up, and for a moment at halftime, it looked like he on such a large stage had. So I don't want that to get twisted.
So I think there's, for people who are repeat and return listeners, thank you for coming back to what is going to be a difficult and heavy conversation as far as Juve post matches go. Typically, I mean, we're talking about starting 11. We kind of break down each half. We look at key moments. We talk about the players. And the last couple episodes, we've kind of broken from that template just because the games have, well, commanded that we look at them in a different way. And we're going to do the same thing here, and that we're going to break it up. I think we're going to have to take some time to talk about some of the decisions that Spalletti made, and we're going to talk about his impact on the game, particularly at halftime. And we're going to talk about the players and the weight of this result and what their contribution to it was. But before we get into those two camps, let's just start with any moment of positivity that we can find. And Zach, it is just those two, right? We saw 2 really nice finishes from Koopmeiners. I think everybody was joking, and including some people in the press as well. Like nobody had a double or a brace from Koopmeiners on their bingo card for this evening. Let's talk about those 2 goals, and then let's get into the more difficult conversation.
I think the best part of that first goal was the header from Kalulu. Right, that is perfectly executed. That head ball from Kalulu that caused the rebound for his first.
Down across from where the goalkeeper was moving, forcing him into an awkward save, and there's no way that keeper in the way the header went could have grabbed it or hit it anywhere else. So it was spot on. It was either a goal, it was a favorable rebound, and credit to Coop for being in the right place. Now, I know part of me, and I'm not a negative person, but a part of me expected him with his right foot to put it to the moon. And so it was very nice to see him softly caress it into the back of the net. Less than 30 seconds after they had scored their goal.
I was even talking from a player perspective, right? The Kalulu's form on that header is what you would expect to see from a number 9. It just made me think it'd be nice if we had a number 9 who could do this. I mean, he was up and used the whole power of his upper body. Right, that's how you want your striker to head a ball at goal, and we're seeing that from our center back.
But that's how Spalletti's played, though. Oftentimes, that role is McKenney, right? McKenney today was the reference point, and McKenney would make runs with David or whoever it might be to get in those positions, create overlaps, and get those headers. With McKenney as striker, somebody else had to step up and do that, and it was nice to see Kelly making Kalulu, like Kelly at times, making one of those marauding runs forward at its moment of the game where we really needed it, and it was perfectly executed by both players. I would argue, though, that the second goal was way better.
It was the only time. It was the only instance that I can remember. And granted, my blood pressure is so high, and I'm just like seeing red right now. Just like, so it's hard for me to remember everything. But that was, I think that on that second goal with the interplay with McKenney, that was the only time having McKenney as this false 9 worked all evening.
Well,
it was the only sequence of play where you used him somewhat as a reference point to build to something productive.
And that's going to get into a little bit of what my complaint about the second half is. And yes, McKenney was active and participated in the first 10 minutes where you kind of saw that he was going to play sort of a David-like position. He disappeared from minute 10 to about minute 30 where he pops up. I text you guys, McKenney hasn't touched the ball in forever. And within 30 seconds of me texting that, he give and goes with Koopmeiners and scores. So his participation was intermittent but effective, and I think it got cut off too soon. So I agree with you, Kevin, but I don't want to over criticize it because any ability for him to have more influence in that position was completely and totally removed at halftime.
Agreed. I mean, the goal was nice. I think Locatelli, who gained all of our compliments and accreditation for his performance at the weekend, was awful today. So many misplaced passes. He was a little bit sturdier in the second half, a bit, but my God, the whole team was a disaster. But
yeah,
I think the ball he played forward, I don't know who it was intended for on that second goal, but it was high, and Koop did really well to control it before he had the give and go with McKenney there. But it was an incredible finish. That was a rocket of a shot.
That's Atalanta. That's Atalanta Koop, right?
Yeah.
It may be the only time, other than that, when he scored that free kick, that we've seen Atalanta Koop in the black and white. So, look, I mean, Kevin? We're using the two goals to ease our way into the disaster, calm our nerves a little bit before we start talking about everything that went wrong. I know what we're doing. It's just what it is.
Yeah,
let's bite the bullet.
There it is. We gave you some moments of positivity. If you are sick of negative things, this is your time to leave the podcast 12 minutes in. But if you want to continue suffering with us, we welcome you to hang around. I want to start with Spalletti and some of his decisions. And before we get into that, there's a number of people here in our chat. Let's first just shout some people out. A lot of return folks here. Skyline 1. We have Ozymandias, Del Piero, Large Boo, Zambazim. I think I see Mikkel earlier, Aziru, Sambika, Pinu, Randy H. Thank you guys for being here. Really, really appreciate it. But there's a number of folks talking about the management and how this starts from the tops down. I think we all recognize that this club is in the state that it's in not because of a coach, not because of a couple players, but because of systemically changes at the management level and things that have been done without the right culture, without the right decisions, staffing the right people, and all of that trickles down. We know this. We're not going to talk about this today. It's just not going to come into play for this match. We're going to talk about the coach we have, the decisions he made, and the players on the field. Mm-hmm. So what I want to start with Spalletti, I'm going to state an opinion, and I would love Frederic. You've been understandably a bit quiet, and I get it. But I'm going to put this one to you. I did not like the idea of starting this match with McKenney in a false nine. I understand why he did it. I still don't like it because McKenney has done decently well when he's been able to play off of somebody and there's someone else in the space that he can interchange with, not being the guy. And in a game where we know Galatasaray has a weak back four and they play on the press, and there's going to be space. I know Openda has not done well in this shirt, but I really would have liked to see Openda up there with Yildiz and McKenney, or with Yildiz and Chico with McKenney in the 10 to play off of him and Openda to capitalize on some space. I think the false nine completely failed, and we were unable to get anything meaningfully going offensively aside from that one play on the Koop goal. So that was my that's how I want to get the Spalletti conversation started. I don't think the starting 11 or the formation was right from the beginning, even though we were leading at half.
It was too conservative, in my opinion. It was a bit too conservative, and I get where Spalletti's coming from. He sees these players every day. We, thank God, only get to see him for 90 minutes at times. He sees them during the whole week. So I think he was, hoping on that sudden counter or that extra goal, or maybe just a draw, which would be nice if you go back to Turin with a draw. But it unfolded differently, and whereas Spalletti was normally able to remedy some of his first mistakes during the months that we have him with us, he completely shat the bed today for the rest of his choices and helped make it even worse. I'm not going to go out and state that he was the sole decisive factor in this awful, awful, awful game. A true vergogna, in my opinion. But he had his hand in there as well. So I think too conservative, also with having to substitute Cambiaso. But then again, who's he going
Hold
to
off on
sub
the
him with?
players. Yes. We'll hold off there for a bit.
But whereas he helped us at times in the recent history, today he just made some wrong choices. And I'm not going to say that they're illogical ones, because I can see the reasoning behind it. And if need be, I can defend him on his choices that he made. But they just didn't unfold well. And yeah, this is the end result.
Yeah, I agree. That's the biggest challenge with me understanding the starting 11 there is Weston in that spot. We have one example of this in the past, him playing or trying to play like this with Yildiz in that spot against Napoli back in December. And it didn't work then. And Yildiz, to me, is naturally a player who's going to attract more attention, which is what you need whoever's playing that role to do. They need to be able to attract attention, right, to pull people out of position. That's one of the main reasons to have that false nine like that. And I don't know why we think West would be able to do that better than Yildiz did. And I do put a lot of this on Spalletti. I think we've been riding high with him for a while, and he has a very consistent streak of performing well. But just like anyone, you're going to regress to the mean. And this is Spalletti regressing to the mean. Are his outliers like the Napoli game and today are so far below expectation that it brings us a little bit back down to earth. At least that's something I'm taking away from today, is that I need to temper my excitement, that Spalletti is carrying us forward right now. If in big moments we're not going to be up to snuff.
But I do think on the whole, this squad is performing better with Spalletti, and today's performance and that Napoli performance doesn't take away from my enthusiasm around what he can do for this team if we're bringing in some better players and we have some better and consistent structure within the squad, right? And there's a number of folks in our chat here indicating Spalletti's doing his best, and I think on the whole that's pretty true. And he's gotten more out of these players in terms of performance and style and what we see on the pitch and certain results than I think many of us expected. But
I was only leaning into Kev that I have high expectations, and we've been saying for the past 4 to 5 weeks that the month of February into March is going to define our season, right? So if we go weekend next week and shit the bed because of any mistakes that he's making, I feel like I want to reserve more. I want some more time before.
Yeah, which is fair, but in the context of this match, right? Like we have to do our due diligence. Like we have to have integrity to call out what we observe to be questionable and have debate about it, right? And he, despite I think many of us, I think all four of us here and many folks in the chat and many people listening want to see Spalletti signed to a longer term deal. That doesn't mean he's not going to make mistakes or some decisions that backfire. And we're here to talk about it. That's that's what we're doing. Zach.
I think I think the using hindsight, the criticism about the starting 11 is kind of moot, right? We go into halftime up 2-1. I had issues with it, mostly the Chico inclusion, because I expected McKenney to play more like Jonathan David, and we saw when Jonathan David plays with Chico and Yildiz, both who stay wide like they did today, he gets isolated and he goes long stretches of matches without getting involved. It's exactly what we saw with McKenney, with Yildiz and Chico playing so wide, in addition to a midfield that really struggled. But in the moments that where there was link up play within the middle, like that second goal, we were able to be dangerous. Okay, you go up 2-1. It's at halftime. My issues with Spalletti stem from that point on, right? You give them the benefit of the doubt. We're able to fight. People saying that, in the first half we looked tough. We didn't. I mean, we looked flawed and we looked sloppy, and that first goal was stupid, but we were still going toe-to-toe with Galatasaray in energy and fighting, and we were stretching the pitch. We had more scoring opportunities in that first half. We went in at halftime up 2-1. So from a game plan standpoint, I think the team did not do great, but they executed the game plan better than Galatasaray did. And faced with that reality, as well as the reality that you had to sub Cambiaso, or at least move him off the left side, I feel like Spalletti went mental, Alla the way they played against Napoli, and totally screwed the team any chance of victory with the changes he made at halftime. And that's what really I struggle with.
Well, let's talk about those. Let's talk about halftime. We'll talk about Cambiaso forcing that decision through his idiotic play once again in the first half.
Well, I would ask Zach, just because I know this is your bread and butter. What do you do at the half there? Because in our thread you mentioned Kostic. Before you said that, in my head I was thinking Cambiaso off and dropping Koop back and bringing Miretti on. So why did you go one way?
That's popped in my head, but you don't move the guy sitting on 2 goals back into defense. That's my thought. I think it's easy. It's very easy in hindsight to say that, well, he's played decently as Brachetta, but the entire first half was played down our left side, their right side, the entire one. And Koop in one-on-one defending scenario is not the best. I think what you do is you bring Kostic in, more no nonsense. You shift Thuram over to cover the over-under defense. Moving McKenney, who did cause a lot of problems for their center backs to track, especially when we were able to get some bodies in the middle of the pitch and create the give and go type scenario of the second half. You took away that threat completely, putting a kind of a 4-4-2. Yildiz and Chico had no presence whatsoever in the middle of the pitch, allowing them to further swarm and gain advantage in the area that they made it very difficult us in the first half. You then have Cabal, who we know is a horrible one-on-one defender. Every single time against any opponent where he has to defend a dribble-happy player, he loses out. And at such a big stage and such a big moment, with him not getting a lot of game time, that was a recipe for an absolute disaster. It was very, 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 very clear to me. Kostic has won the Europa League. He's played at the highest level. He is experienced. And while he hasn't had a lot of minutes, when he has had minutes, he's been very functional with that time in there. Thuram has had an absolute horrible game, useless in all phases. Sacrifice him to help with the defensive side, not the guy who's running the defense ragged, trying to track his movements as much as he might not have been consistently involved. Both of those changes from a personnel and a tactical aspect absolutely nuked any ability that our team would provide any threat whatsoever in the second half to score any goals, because we had no reference point up front. You had 2 isolated wingers who were, for the large part, being able to be neutralized either individually or because our midfield was struggling to build up play.
Do you think Spalletti just thought we were going to be able to hold on to a 2-1 and just like absorb it? Like if you like a slightly more defensively minded Cabal, who is still not a good defender, and then you put McKenney over there to provide some coverage, because that right side attack was like you saw what Cambiaso got kind of wrong-footed so many times. Ultimately, dealing with what could have been a second yellow in that first half. Was Spalletti just trying to hold on? And even if we conceded another goal, going home with 2-2 would be okay. That's the only thing I can think of, because you look at Kostic, who has way more experience, right? He's played in he's won the Europa League, or came runners up. I forget what Frankfurt did that season. He's played in the Champions League. He played in freaking Turkey, right? Like he knows how to deal with the pressure there. And you put on a Verona player with less than 50 appearances for this side in such a high pressure,
less than 20.
It's just like, I just don't understand the thought process unless it was put in the defensively minded guy. I don't need Kostic up there throwing in crosses because I don't have a center forward for him to do it. I only care about the defensive side of this. Have McKenney drop back and protect this lead. That's the only thing I can think of.
But that is he's too experienced. Spalletti's too experienced to be that naive. Galatasaray has a fantastic attack. We talked about it prior to the game. Weak on defense, great attack. Inviting them to do what they want to do in their home stadium is asinine. It really will. If that is the case, Kevin, it shows a naivety that a coach who has over 1,000 games coached at the professional level should not have. And I think, Frederic said earlier, he sees them every day in practice. Maybe Cabal showed something. But for what we see on the pitch, whenever he plays, it is not good enough. And I've said all along with Cabal that you have to give him time, because he did not have a lot of games. It may max maybe 15 in Serie A before joining us. Like, he's a very unfinished product for being 24, 25 years old. He should not have played in this game considering the environment. And so when people say Cabal, it's Cabal's fault. And I don't want to get personal about Cabal. I'm not saying he's done, but he's just not there. And he was put in a position to fail today, and that's on the coach. Taking McKenney away and playing this 4-4-2 that had absolutely no avenue for a forward attack is not on the players. That's taking a spark plug out of the engine and complaining that the pistons don't work. It makes no sense. That's on Spalletti, and that is why I cannot get beyond my issues with what Spalletti did at halftime to even blame a player like Cabal, or blame a player like Thuram, or blame a player like Yildiz for a poor performances, because that second half was a giant leap backwards for our team and really put them in a position perfectly for the outcome that we saw to happen.
And that's what spooked me about moving forward, right? About how the team like self-destructed in the second half, right? We knew this was going to be a hard match. Everybody knew it. There's no surprises about the environment that stadium represents. Any team can go in there on any day and lose. Like we know that. And again, like, that's why I just don't understand the Cabal change in that moment when you had a player who was constantly getting around Cambiaso and an inexperienced Cabal. Is he going to keep his head on and be able to go in there and make an impact? The self-destruct, the second red card in 2 games, we start bleeding goals in that loud stadium, and we've got a critical home match this weekend and a return leg where Galatasaray comes to our place, which isn't going to mean anything. There's no way we're overturning that result. I'm just being blunt. The mental weakness that we've talked about all season of some of these players, can they overcome this? They've got Como and Roma as our next 2 games. You win those 2 games, you have a fighting chance for the UCL spot. Sorry, Frank.
I frankly don't. I know, but I don't care anymore, because if this is what we're putting out in the Champions League every season, and we're talking about finances and all these nice things, we're not allowed to have nice things, because when we have money, we spend it like idiots, and we get getting forced back into this loop of trying to qualify for the Champions League, because Champions League equals money, equals better players in order to build onto something. And every year we start afresh. So I'm curious to see what would happen if we entered the Europa League or something, because you'd have to be forced. You're forced to, make do with what you have, and I'd be pretty okay with that. I'd be okay with making do with what we have, but not this. This is a travesty. This is. I'm very sorry. I know you guys are very good at the analytical thing and putting the emotions aside. I'm not. I'm not at all. So I'm just gonna go out and say there isn't. There may be 2 to 3 players who deserve a place in the squad. All the rest just needs to be sold or whatever. There is no quality. There is no quality. There isn't any. We overperform, we can do okay. We can make teams, we can make it hard on a lot of teams. We can exploit their weaknesses. But if we're not overperforming, we're a mediocre team that deservedly stands fifth or sixth in the Serie A, that deservedly gets erased in Istanbul and bum rushed. And Spalletti, although today he has his blame, for me is the one with the least amount of blame. And I think it's good for Juventus maybe to look at where we're at and where we want to go and how would we attempt to achieve it. Because if we start every year again and again and again and again and again without a clear vision and without a clear structure, because this is a structural issue. This is Spalletti having no choice. Maybe he could have conjured up something else. But if we're talking about players in a Juventus team, and the names are Di Gregorio, Cabal, Miretti, Openda, you can put Ancelotti and Guardiola on the training pitch. They won't make these guys better because these guys are mediocre at best, except when they overperform, and that's what Spalletti did. But now that overperforming arch is done, and you're left with this pile of steaming horseshit.
No, but I think you said that well, right? Like we are a fifth or sixth place side in Serie A. We're exactly. I mean, like we spent a lot of time this weekend talking about the refereeing errors that have contributed to where we are, and I think if we had some of those points back, we'd be sitting comfortably in top 4. But the reality is, I think we are a fifth or sixth place side in that table. That is an accurate representation of the quality that we put in over the course of what we've seen so far this season. And a team that's in fifth or sixth place has the ability to beat top sides, but also self-destruct.
And the thing is, it goes
some really nice matches recently. Like it's not like we're getting beat 5-2 week in and week out, but man, are we capable of it?
Yeah, and the thing is, this affects not only the financial situation, but only your appeal. Imagine Sinesi, Bernardo Silva lying on the couch looking at the game tonight.
Yeah, not a good advertisement.
I mean, you think, oh no, that's trivial. They don't. Yes, they do. They do look at these games. They do look at our performances. They try to spot the potential of the sides that they may choose to sign for. And let's be honest, if you're Bernardo Silva and you have teams knocking on your window, and you could choose a plethora of teams, even with salary, and you look at today's game, you're not going to choose Juventus if you don't have any affiliation or bond with them. And the same can be said for Senesi. The same could be said for Kenan Yildiz in the past, who was also very, very poor today. Very poor. And he's been a bit poor recently, but that could just be form. He's still young. He has all the excuses going for him, so I don't mean to crucify him. But the likes of Cabal, Conceição, Di Gregorio, Openda, oh, please, for the love of... Can we just pack it up and just say, okay, guys, we're going to get mediocre players. We don't pay them anything. and we'll see what happens. I'd be content. I'm repeating myself, but I'd be content. I'd rather have 11 players fighting on the pitch, scraping 3 passes together, than seeing these types of players with just, there's something wrong in their core, and the fact that they think that they're world-class players, but they're not. None of them are. Not even Yildiz is at that level. Because if you're a world-class player, you perform consistently, and Yildiz doesn't have that yet. If you look at the game that Locatelli played Saturday, amazing, 10 out of 10. And you look at the game today, and we could talk about fatigue, and we can talk about the schedule, and we could talk about the whistles from the stadium, but these guys are professionals. Let's be honest. These guys get paid millions to do a job. And this is what you have to do, because you know it's going to get ugly. You know it's going to get rough. And you need to be prepared for that. And you're not. Openda didn't touch a ball. Miretti didn't touch a ball. Granted, they got garbage minutes. But you could see the dysfunction and the panic the whole of the second half. And there's not much Spalletti can do about that, because you feel as a player that you fall short quality-wise and mentality-wise, and you just drown on that pitch.
Yep.
And that's what they're doing a lot of the time. And
I also want to just real quick go back, and that whole where we would be or where we are in the Champions League versus where we would or should be in Serie A. I often don't like those comparisons, because if we look at, no, honestly, we take, and I love Serie A. I love even supporting Serie A clubs in Europe, because I do like the opportunity to have the extra team, et cetera, but it's been embarrassing, right? Inter earlier this season, embarrassed by Arsenal. Milan not even playing in Europe. Atalanta lose 3-1 on the last match day of the Champions League, group phase or whatever, league phase, excuse me. Napoli out of the Champions League. We're 1 foot out the door. Who's next? Como, right? Isn't 7th? So Serie A in Europe has been somewhat embarrassing over the past few years. So
I mean, Inter did make it to 2 Champions League finals, and
true. But if we're 5th or 6th in Italy, this is about how we should be performing in the Champions League, is what I'm saying. But if we're going to be honest about that comparison, that's where we are.
I mean, I could accept coming away from here with a 1-0 loss or a 2-1 hard-fought loss, 5-2. That's a punch to the gut.
That step too far. That, say, those extra 2 goals. To me, that's where Spalletti owns some of the blame. Right?
Well, I did more than that, dude. More than that. You go in at half. Spalletti is the one who makes these changes. When coaches sub guys on who score the winning goal, the coach is the hero, right? It's got to work both ways. Spalletti chose Cabal. He chose to shift to a 4-4-2 without a central presence whatsoever. This is how he had the team play. Okay? So Spalletti has to swallow the blame for that. Now, you might say it's more on Cabal than it's on Spalletti, and I'll leave that to you. Okay? And again, my criticism of Spalletti has nothing to do with me saying Spalletti out. I think he had a stinker of a game that doesn't change my impression of Spalletti on the sidelines of Juventus. But you cannot escape this game if you're criticizing Cabal without also criticizing Spalletti, because he made the decision to put him in that position, and we all knew exactly what that was going to look like. We've seen it before, okay? Dating all the way back to last year when he just got destroyed by Zagrova against Lille, right? We were put on notice, and it has not changed any of his appearances since, albeit not many of them because of his injury. Like, Spalletti has to own that. But then if you look at individuals, the first goal against was Cambiaso's, dumb moment of the day, right? He always has one. It was his. He throws a really bad throw into Yildiz, staring back at his goal in a pocket of defenders. Stupid. The second goal, right, against right after halftime, Cabal leaves his man to fight Locatelli for a header probably causing Locatelli to whiff, and because he's getting pressured by his own guy, and then Cabal's guy who he abandoned puts in the shot that's deflected for the rebound goal. The third goal, Cabal getting destroyed again on the edge to put in an advantageous free kick. Yes, Di Gregorio should have, and a team should have done better at defending that free kick. Nonetheless, it was from a stupid defensive decision from a poor defender. The fourth goal, Taram is dicking around with the ball in the box. Like, you could say their press was good, or that Cabal stinks, or even that Spalletti
Just
dropped
kick
the ball
it out.
All four of those goals were
Good
entirely
Lord.
preventable. Like entirely
Yes.
preventable, and due solely to individual errors. Okay, the fifth goal, Coop didn't track his guy because everybody had given up at that point. But those four goals were gifts. Galatasaray deserves credit for jumping on them and finishing them, but they were gifts.
And this is where Frederic comes in
Yeah.
and talks about quality again.
It's as simple as that, because I see people in chat saying we need to get back to our old ways. There's no magic formula. There's one very important word that needs to resound through everything that you're building up, and that's competence. In every way, shape, or form, if you have competence, you'll be, I'm not going to say you win, because football is a very strange game, and it's really unpredictable and whatever. But you have a fighting chance if you have competence. I'm sorry. And if you have competence and you have the right people in the right place making the right decisions, then you have something to build on. If you just haphazardly shift every year and just take the next guy that you find on the street to do a certain job in your club, these are the results. There are people playing for Juventus that should have never played for Juventus. There are people in the back office that should never be responsible for things in the back office. There are so many things wrong with this club that only somebody with enough passion could remedy. And I'd like to see, because I'm being critical now, and I said we weren't going to be critical about the other people in charge, but I'd love to see Kamoli put out a statement today as well. He did so against Inter. Would, suit him nicely if he did so today, because he should come out and say, okay, this was also on me, because I didn't make the team better in January. I didn't actually make the team better in June or in July or in August or whatever. So this is also on me.
Got to be careful about that, though, Frederic. Got to be careful on that, because he says something like that, and I know you're going to say, who cares, to what I'm about to say, but you say something like that, what does every single player who's come in the last 8 months think? You can't jeopardize person in his position, even if he was to try to take accountability. You have to be very careful how you do it, because we're very much still needing to finish fourth. You can't nuke the confidence of some of the players that we
Lose
have.
the locker room.
But you don't even have to name names, but you could say this is on me as well. I'm in charge of this whole ship. I'm the CEO.
Yeah, he's
I go
accountable.
down with this ship. I mean, it's as simple as that. If you come out on national TV saying, I'm the CEO, I need to defend my club, we're in this together, we're all very much aligned, then you should do the same today and say, I'm as much as fault as Cabal or Spalletti or Di Gregorio is. And learn from that, because if we do our summer scoop episode, Zach, with one player arriving again, like we had, in January, well, then it's time to start asking yourself questions.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't see the flaws in this team, and for some reason you can't remedy them, then you're either incompetent or it's a mission impossible. If it's a mission impossible, you should say, guys, I'm out, because this is just not doable. And if it's your incompetence, then you should pay for that. That's how I envision things. And I hope that Kamoli has his plan already made up. But I'm fearing the worst, because there are a number of players we could have signed from February 2nd for the summer, who we still haven't signed.
We haven't signed yet.
And I honestly, maybe I'm a bit too frantic, but I, in all honesty, expected Senesi to sign already. Now February's gone. He hasn't signed, not that we know of. And I'm pretty sure that I'd know of if he would have signed. So, that leads me to believe, are we going to that whole roller coaster of emotions again in the summer? And where is our jump off point? And I know, we have to see if we can make. No, you have to make sure that you get the Champions League qualification. You just have to make sure. That's why you were appointed CEO. That's your duty. If you don't get that, then it's a hard fail. The Champions League to me is a bonus. And I don't mind going out of the Champions League, not winning it. I know Beppe will disagree with me on some point.
I know, but his claims, we
I-
know how Beppe is. Beppe very much lives with his heart on his sleeve.
Yeah,
That
but
was
I mean,
not. Yeah.
no, but I mean, you have a right to dream, as everybody should. Every team that enters Champions League should have that dream of winning it. I know it's not realistic, but I mean, for some reason, I find it very realistic as a Juventus supporter to make sure that we get into the top four by the end of April. If that doesn't happen, then somebody needs to be held accountable. And I know you're going to say about you can't change every year, and I get that, but if the output is not there, you don't have any choice. You simply don't. And whatever that choice or that might be, sell the club, don't sell the club, get another CEO and get somebody else in, revisit the whole schematics about the organogram of Juventus or whatever it is. I don't care. I don't get paid to do that. But I want to see results and output. And if we look at the situation today, we're out of the Champions League and we're out of the qualifying first top four of the Champions League. So I think a lot of people will be in their God-given right to be not only upset, but also demand improvement. And
Yes.
this starts with a successful transfer window that already started, yet we haven't signed anyone.
Wait. So let's back up for just a second. Are you saying like I view this game very much in isolation as running against the way we've been playing lately? Yes, we lost against Inter, a game where we outplayed them and shouldn't have been down a man. Yes, it comes on the heels of drawing against Lazio when we should have had 2 first half penalties and we outplayed them for the entire game. Like, our form as a team has been quite good. Today sucked. Today's been horrible. Are
But
you
the
saying,
form-
I mean, the way you're talking about it,
Yeah.
Frederic, is very much on this grandiose level, as opposed to that this game today was an isolated dumpster fire.
The games you
Yeah.
mentioned, and I'm going to go back even to the game of Atlanta, the Coppa Italia. These are games that if you have quality, you win. You can get the penalty whistled, you can get the red card, overturned, whatever you want. The half of those games you win. The Lazio game you win if you have quality. You don't concede those goals if you have quality. You don't miss those chances if you have quality. And your CEO, your sporting director, these are the guys that are in charge of bringing in quality players, because Spalletti is doing everything he can with the material that he has. The output is there. The game plan, as we say, is there. The nice football is there, but the end result is not there. And that is due to quality, because if you have a good goalkeeper, you'd have 10 goals against in the last 4 against instead of 14 maybe. If you brought in a quality number 9 like your coach asked you to, maybe you would have scored a goal or 3 or 4 more in these games. And that's the turning point. So if you can provide that, and your coach is doing everything he can and is almost forced to bring in players like Miretti and Cabal, I don't know, man. Yeah.
Well, I during the second half, I started typing a note to myself on if we truly had the ability to move players, right? Like there are players that it will be very hard to move on from for any number of reasons. But let's just say if you want a player out, they can go out. Let's just play a little game here. I feel players that I would want to stay, that I'd be proud of to be representing this shirt because of potential, because of the effort that they put in, because of the quality they have. I'm left with Kanan, Bremer, Kalulu, Locatelli, Kelly, and McKenney, with Kelly and McKenney available to be squad players, but they perform and they always play, I think, generally they play to their potential and they understand, I think, what it means to wear this shirt. I think everybody else can fuck off if you get the right price.
Even without
Or
the
the
right
wrong
price.
price. Or the wrong price.
I mean,
Yeah.
but that's the thing, and this is what I've been trying to say. The decisions you make, the important ones, signing Openda, which Zach, you and I spoke about it. Like, we didn't see the use of Openda, but we said, hey, we're just two bald nobodies from Texas and Belgium. So hey, he might be right.
Don't sell us short. We're somebody to somebody, Frederic.
We're somebody to somebody, but we're not. At least I'm not paid as well as Kamoli. But so we thought, well, maybe we're missing something. But if you make those mistakes time and time again, eventually it'll bite you in the ass because you're left with unsellable players that are no use to your squad, and you just can't revitalize them. Like, credits to Spalletti, what he's doing and making players better, but some players are just downright mediocre. You're not going to turn them in. We could put Ancelotti and Pep on the training pitch. They won't make these guys any better. But you're left with a financial hole that you need to fill. And how are you going to fill it? You can only sell players. So we're back in the loop again.
Yeah.
Because if we're not making Champions League or whatever, we need to sell the players that you like, Kevin.
Yeah, no, I know.
And that's what frustrates me.
Do you challenge my list? Do you challenge my list? There's people in the chat saying Thuram. I think Thuram has one good game every 4 or 5 matches.
He's been pretty inconsistent lately.
I want him to perform because of just like the heart that goes with his player and for what his dad represented to the club. And I love that story, but that's emotion. But right now he's not proving that he's a Juve quality midfielder.
Listen, even some of the players you mentioned, Kev, don't even do exactly what Fred is saying, which is put any money in our pocket, right? Because no matter how happy Wes is, he doesn't have to sign a damn thing, and he can walk away for free.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, and Yildiz the same. I'm sorry, I'm not like, I want to make this clear. I'm not against Kenan, but a lot of people say, "Oh, Kenan, he loves Juventus." No, he loves the 7 million he's going to get every year. Let's be honest here. He's happy there. Maybe there's a grand scheme that we don't know of that, Juventus will win eventually. But he still pockets 7 million. He still pockets 7 million. It's not like he's playing for love of the shirt. It's not like he's saying, "Oh, guys, you know what? This professional football gig, nah, I'm just gonna come and play for you guys whenever." I mean, it doesn't happen that way. It's the same with Dave. Oh, but he's good in the build-up play. He is. I like him. He's a likable guy. But he gets paid a whole lot of money to score and then doesn't score. The same with Openda, Di Gregorio. I mean, sorry, this is I don't even know. Sometimes it feels like I'm debating, like I'm in the Twilight Zone with people. There are actual people saying that he's a decent keeper. I've played with keepers in the 2nd division of Belgian football who, in my honest opinion, are better than Di Gregorio. And the same can be said for a player like Cabal. Koopmeiners, chance and chance again. Granted, he scores twice today. Other than that, pretty useless. 10 good touches, but he disappears. He sinks along with the ship. There are no players with some balls, with leadership. Like I said in the chat, we need somebody to be a bastard at times on the field. We don't have those players with that charisma, with that quality, because Bernardo Silva is a likable guy, but he can be a bastard, but he has the quality to back it up. If Thuram tries to be aggro with you, just laugh at him straight in his face.
Yeah.
The same can be said for Koopmeiners.
There's no chat. This was a game for Vidal and Tevez. If we had the two of them on the field today, they would have chewed through that team in the middle.
Yeah. And Galatasaray played a good game, but it was because we were so bad.
They
We were so
did.
bad.
But it's easy to look good when you're
Yeah.
presented with 4 gifts. Like,
Yeah,
let's be real. Those
more.
goals were gifts. Like,
So,
Yeah.
so we're
Here,
we're
we
we're, we're at
score.
risk of losing. I think maybe the audience here because of the repetition and it's. I don't blame us because they're like, this is what there is to talk about. Challenges with the management, quality within the players, Di Gregorio bashing session, Cambiaso and all of his mistakes. The quality's not there. Players underperforming. Like this, guys, it's hard when we have these off games because it's like the same thing kind of repeating itself. And so before we continue to go down that, like, what does this mean moving forward? Right, we've got a match this weekend, a very critical match on Saturday, the early game, which I think sometimes throws players off. Against Como, must win match when the players know that their last 2 games have been gut wrenching for different reasons, and they have a Champions League match ahead of them that they know probably in the back of their mind that you can't overturn, most likely. And then after that, you have a direct head-to-head contest with your 4th place side. How, Zach, you always have a good sense of like kind of getting in the mind of a coaching mentality. How is Spalletti preparing this side for Saturday? With this 3-hour flight home that they have, just having to sit and marinate in that loss.
Well, you let them marinate in it. But from one side, you acknowledge where you are and why and what happened, and on the other, you consider the season like stepping stones. You don't care about Roma. You don't care about home against Galatasaray. You only care about one game, beating a Como team that beat you bad the first time we faced them. And you say, look, guys, these last games, we've been hard done by. And you let it sink in. And you say, there's only one way to dig ourselves out, and that's to put in the work and do it together. And so what I really need is Spalletti step up and utilize this moment to drive unity. I think the most important aspect within that unity is leadership within the team. So hopefully, not hopefully, I mean, this is Locatelli's time. When things get tough, he's got to also step up as a leader to then bring this team together collectively with the coach so that they're focused in on and only focused in on the game this weekend. I think because competitions take different complexions, it shouldn't be too hard to refocus for the league, the implications on the league, and getting revenge against a team. And I know that the players will be itching to shed the last 3 results from their memory. And the only way to do that, as they know, is to win a winnable game against a Como team who's dropped some unlikely points recently. So, and also who will be coming off, a fewer day of rest. So that's how I would approach this and how I hope Spalletti approaches this next game.
Yeah, I hope he takes a positive angle. I think I said last time we were on that I had a couple things I was worried about. One was Osimhen and Bremer. Bremer didn't even last long enough to make that a conversation. But this weekend does concern me going in with our fragile mental state, without Kalulu, possibly without David. I don't know what the situation is with him, and not being set on sort of a secondary starting formation that gives us an opportunity to create chances to score goals, because against Como, we're going to have to score because it's almost inevitable now that teams score against us. So goals might be a little difficult to come by. So I do hope we go in with a positive attitude. I hope we go in looking to get some revenge for the first game around when we played away to them. And it's going to be interesting to see because, again, these next 2 weeks are going to tell us what we wanted to know. So
Spalletti already said that he will probably try to change something. He got a question about Yildiz. And he said, well, he started because he gets, followed twice by double the amount of players, so he has to do a lot of the work, and maybe I have to change up something because we're struggling at this point. So I think he'll sit the team down, and I think he might be maybe looking to shift to a full thoroughbred 4-3-3.
With Koopmeiners, Locatelli, and Thuram.
I think so. And then having some more body of presence in attack, depending on who's available, because we have no strikers at this point.
But we have
Literally.
not one that anybody trusts to do anything with. But
I mean, that's a huge signal, right? You start McKenney in a game like this when Openda's fit. That tells everybody what Spalletti thinks of Openda.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, Como will play open, right? They'll play open, so there will be space for Openda, knowing he likes to run into it. I just
the thing about the Como game, timing wise, is very poor in the sense that you still have the game of Galatasaray that you need to dispute, and you're dangling in between hope and fear at the same time. Because even if we say like it's over, it's done, for the players it's not done.
You have to play them again.
You have to play them again, exactly, and you don't know what to expect or what to do, or if it's even possible to remedy the situation. So that's a big question mark for you that's still waiting there, regardless of the outcome of the Como game. So that game will already be in your head. So
but it's up to the management, it's up to the leadership to you gotta compartmentalize. I mean, you have to. I know human nature. I know human nature is what it is, but mature teams, and God knows that we've talked about our lack of maturity, but mature teams are able to compartmentalize, put their blinders on. This is a process. We're gonna take it one game at a time. Spalletti has the experience and has the man management to help lead them into that. That's why I put a lot of pressure on Locatelli, because ultimately he's going to also have to help keep his teammates accountable to not worry about that inevitable, unfortunate game where we probably won't go through in the Champions League. The Roma game, all of it's irrelevant if you lose against Como. So you have to focus on what you can control, and all you can control right now is the next game.
In addition to his transition in, Zach, this is Spalletti's next big challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, the wheels are coming off. Mm-hmm. What can you do to put them back on so we can keep going in the right direction? He had made some progress. We've all seen it on the pitch, right? But after the first challenge of transitioning, now is the next challenge. How do we get over the hump here? And this is why I said I wanted to reserve my sort of positive attitude towards the possibility of him re-signing for later in the season, because this is where, if he can turn this corner, I think this shows a lot about his professionalism, his ability to manage all of
it. Do you want this job?
Yeah, that was my point.
At his age, and all this drama, like
he might walk away.
No, I mean, like,
we know
he's got to want it if we give him a contract.
Sure.
When Kamoli joined, I said I wouldn't want his job because of the financial state of the club and just the position we were in to bring in players. When Spalletti joined, you're stepping into a ship that's bringing on water faster than it can bail out, and with very little indication of positivity in the future. I think at the same time, I very much view today's game more so in isolation, because ultimately whether it's going to have this giant effect, we will see over the next couple. I think where we've talked about Spalletti is he struggled at times in previous teams when the going gets really tough. He kind of goes a little mental. And after the Lazio game, where we all admit we were hard done by with some no calls, and he said so himself, in the Inter game with all of the drama and the stakes leading to a defeat, to a 5-2 embarrassment. Like like Jack said, this is going to be the moment where we find out what Spalletti we have. Whether he wants it at the end of the day is irrelevant because he's here and he's and this is who we got and the players he's got to deal with. We're going to find out what Spalletti we get with how he navigates us through, because whether we're weak and fragile and we have no depth or not, our starting 11, banged up as it is good enough to finish top 4 in this version of Serie A.
Not if we show this volatility.
Well, you say volatility. Today sucked, but one data point is not volatility. We outplayed Inter and we got hard done by, and we outplayed Lazio. The only game that recently was the Atalanta game where I predicted we'd lose because it was going to be deprioritized. It's like, and so I don't really care about that game anyways, considering the stakes and circumstances. Like in general, under Spalletti, we've played really, really well.
No, we're playing well, but like let's not lose sight of just like what the actual results have been, right? Like since the start of the new year, we have underwhelming draws, a draw against Lecce. We have a loss against Cagliari. We get embarrassed against Atalanta, even though we perform better. We have the draw against Lazio. We have a loss against Inter. We have this embarrassing match. We have the terrible, boring game against Monaco, right? Like I'm not speaking out against Spalletti, right? Like I'm very supportive of him and I like what he's done with this side, but those are a lot of poor results of this team not being able to either secure a win when we deserve it or losing games in an embarrassing way when we don't show up at all. So I say it is volatile. Like we have the ability to play well and win well. We have the ability to play well and lose, and we have the ability to play poorly and get embarrassed. And it's hard.
It is, and that is why we need that experience, because we were all the youth and whatever. But you need those experienced people, those natural born leaders that get you through these moments, because. And I'm just taking Bernardo Silva as an example.
Yeah.
If you were to lose this game with a Bernardo Silva, he'd sit everybody down in the plane already, probably talk it over, and get these guys over it and make them turn the page. You have nobody in the dressing room capable of that at this point. There is literally nobody, because Bremer hardly talks, and he could do that, but that's just not in his nature.
No.
There's nobody left, and you need also on the pitch. You need at times that person that keeps you awake and keeps you on your toes and says, "Come on, look at this, look at that," or just coaches you, because the goal, the Thuram Kelly mishap was a clear miscommunication. They weren't communicating. Normally, if you play that ball in, which you shouldn't, but at least you say to your left, letting the guy know that there's a man on his left. Kelly had no clue. Kelly had completely no clue. So I think you need that leadership, those veterans who seen these moments, who relive these moments, who know how to turn the page, who know how to get forward, and who know how to get the mentality and the fire back into the players on the pitch and off the pitch.
So we'll wrap this episode, give each of you just kind of the opportunity to share kind of your parting thought on what gives you hope moving forward. Let's try and end with just kind of a little bit of optimism, because that's what it is as fans, right? And I think all of us were very, very critical. The 4 of us here dedicating time to this. We've got people joining us on YouTube. We've got people tuning in and listening. And we all know, no matter how frustrated it is, how much you want to turn the TV off, how much you want space from it, we know you're all turning in to watch the match on Saturday, because that's who we are as fans, right? And it's that hope that something better can come. So, Zach, as our eternal optimist, what's giving you hope?
My hope is that, contrary to your volatility comment, that we've played really good football other than today, since Spalletti's joined, growing, learning how players work, being able to be flexible in certain situations, finding goals from different members of our team. And I think if you can wash the Inter stink, which I still think was stuck to these players, as well as today's embarrassment off, refresh the mindset and build off of what in general has been progress, that the Como game's there for the taking. And in any situation like this, any slide, and this little mini slide that we're on, all it takes is one win to reset, where we are again talking about how good we can be and what the season can turn into. And so I think that's entirely doable by all the evidence this team has showed over the course of the last several months.
Well said. Jack, let's go to you.
I'll pick up where Zach left off and say, let's do it. Let's go on the field. Let's show what we're made of. Like I said, the level of competition in Serie A suits us a little better. So I'm hoping we can go into Como, and welcome Como in, this weekend to a hostile environment, pull out a win, and take that positivity into the following week, because I think 3 points against Como and 3 points against Roma put us in good position to continue the run for the top 4. So I think it's really important for Spalletti to right the ship, to get the players' minds right, the rest of the coaching staff's minds right. I think management needs to show some support, even if it's quietly behind closed doors, right? To your point earlier, Zach, about not coming out and taking so much responsibility that it makes anyone question their previous decisions. But I think those things can happen behind closed doors to show a ton of support to the coaching staff and the players. We have to try to turn this corner and take ourselves into March with the chance, like I said, to march into the top 4. I think Fred said it earlier, right? Be in the top 4 in April without question is really what the goal should be. Not to end the season there.
Yep.
Be in the top 4 in April. Securely in the top 4 in April, would be what I'd like to see. But back to you.
Frederic, is there anything you can grab onto right now, my friend?
Not really, and I don't even want to. In the sense that I love for us to maybe take a step back, because I feel like this eternal we have to get in the top 4 thing is crippling us financially, emotionally, and physically. I'd rather we take a step back, sit out that Europa League ride, maybe with less of a budget to spend, and maybe just see where we can go from there, and use one season as a preparation to get back where we need to be. And that's not top 4, but number 1 spot, because we're kind of in limbo the past couple of seasons by having that rope around our necks, by having to compete for top 4, even though we're not good enough, then always just getting there and then being a bit reckless with the funds that we receive, because hey, we made top 4 in the last 3 seasons, surely it will work out fine this time. Maybe it's a good thing to scrape the bottom of the barrel, so to speak, and start afresh. And I'm not saying change management or whatever, that's not what I'm intending, but maybe lower the perspectives, have this peaceful season in a sense where the objectives are not as crippling, and work your way up from there with a solid foundation, without that stress, without always that sort of Damocles dangling above our heads. But I could be totally wrong, but I think that's the way to go, because these are all just half-assed attempts the past couple of seasons, without any red straight line in between them. We're not competing, but we're not not competing. So it's always like this mixture of not good enough, but good enough just to get a certain spot, by then getting out of the Champions League season in, season out, and in the knockout stages, regardless of whom we play, be it Ajax, be it Lyon, be it Galatasaray. Maybe it's time to look the facts in the face and say, hey, maybe we're just not on par, and maybe we're just clutching at straws every season, and trying to do financial twists and turns in order to get something in. But maybe that's not the way to go.
So we have Zach and Jack trying to look at the positive play that we've generally seen since the turn of the new year, building upon that, having a short-term memory, forget some of these pains, just focus on the next match ahead of us and get the job done. And Frederic wants to finish the season in 7th place to reduce our the burden of kind of the
That's
weight
a
of
bit out of
expectation.
context.
No,
That's
it's
a bit out
not.
of
It's
context.
that's what he
Everyone,
said.
thank you for
Frederic,
joining this
crazy.
episode. Hopefully in the next one we have something more joyous to talk about. Appreciate everybody listening and tuning in. Again, like, subscribe, 5-star rating means the world to us. And until next time, Fino alla fine and Forza Juve.
Parte del pieno, rete del pieno.
Pallone con i contadini per Nedved, Pirlo, la conclusione in rete, Andrea Pirlo, un gol pazzesco. Del Piero,
Palla di Pogacar, Pogba, rete! Un gol incredibile! Pogba fa esplodere lo Juventus.